Out of all the current generation consoles, the oldest one still sold and supported around the world is the Nintendo 3DS. It came out in 2011, making it slightly older than Skyrim. Within its lifespan, so far it has survived two systems, the PlayStation Vita and the Nintendo Wii U, both of which came out after the release of the 3DS. As of this video, the Nintendo Switch Lite is going to be released in less than a month, which presumably will take the place of the 3DS in the Nintendo lineup as the new budget/handheld option. Or I guess we could also call it the not connectable to the TV option. We've already seen several franchises that had a big presence on the 3DS make the transition to the Switch, so fans who want to play the new versions of games they enjoyed on the 3DS will have to go that road too. Today we'll take a look at the Nintendo 3DS, as requested by you guys, and see how well it works in 2019. If you followed this series of videos, you know that the point is to check out some secondary functions that consoles have to see how they hold up today, like web browsers, streaming apps, and things like that. It's not really about the games themselves, because they'll always be great. Unless, of course, they really rely heavily on online functions, then, some of those might not be so great now. I've talked about games, console variations, and other general history of the system before, so that's not going to be the focus of this video. As of this recording, it's a few days before YouTube support will be dropped, so let's start the obligatory YouTube test before it doesn't work anymore. Well, I guess I might have been wrong on that one. While the eStore still has the YouTube application up for download, it doesn't seem to work on my 3DS XL no matter how many times I re-download the thing. I also have a regular 3DS, and while it doesn't work either, it doesn't work in a different way. Instead of the application getting stuck when loading up, the one on the 3DS just crashed. So I guess it doesn't work. Not for me anyway. Every 3DS or 2DS with the word new attached on the front of it can still use YouTube in the built-in web browser because it can do HTML5 video. I don't have a new 3DS, so I can't really show you that. I don't have Netflix either, but it's a thing on the system. If you have Netflix and have used it on the 3DS, maybe leave a comment on what your experience is with it. But what I can do is look at the browser and see what sort of websites work with it. As you can see, sites span both screens, so it's a very vertical view, except there's a bit of a divider going on. Not to mention the top and bottom screens are different widths as well, so it kind of funnels down, I guess. One thing I don't like about the 3DS is that you're constantly forced to use the touchscreen. I don't really want to whip out the stylus just to type in a word or try to use my fingers and inevitably misspell something because the keys are so tiny. I tried the Patreon site since it runs so slow on even a proper desktop. Predictably, the performance was intolerable. Apparently there's a website here, but I couldn't be bothered to try and browse it. The PlayStation site didn't load either, and there was also some issues with Twitter, so that didn't really work out. I'm sure there's other stuff that works, but at this point, I kind of got frustrated and annoyed with everything, so I think it's best to just move on and, I don't know, maybe not use the 3DS browser. The eShop is still something that you can use, but just a few days ago there was an important announcement regarding the eShop. Nintendo said that as of September 2019, date unspecified, the 3DS and Wii U eShop will no longer accept credit cards as payment methods in Europe. You can still use credit cards on the website though, and so far there's been no such announcement for other regions. Apparently that could be just due to some EU regulations though. I don't really know much about that, so you might want to fill me in on that. What I find interesting with the whole deal in Europe is that it's both the Wii U and 3DS. The Wii U isn't that surprising, but the 3DS was quite successful and it still sells alright these days. It does make you wonder when Nintendo will drop total support like they did with the Wii U a while back. I hope not yet in the next few years. Remember how we took a look at the really crappy camera on the Vita? Well, the 3DS does not disappoint. Things are pretty hideous here too. In fact, I think it's actually worse. The cameras were never any good even in 2011. Grainy and noisy are the keywords here. One thing that it can do is 3D photos and videos, but I'm not sure if that's really worth it. I did once use the camera for a real purpose. Once I put new pickups into a 7-string guitar, and I used a 3DS to take a picture of the wiring before I took the old pickups out, just for reference. I was too lazy to get my phone, which was somewhere else in the house. You know how the 3DS XLs have the slightly wobbly hinge? Well, that causes a bit of a problem when filming videos, so you have to use your thumb to stabilize it. I tried a few games to check out some multiplayer functions. Since Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U is still very popular, I decided to try Mario Kart 7. I did a few races off camera and never had a problem finding a race to join. I haven't played the game in a while, but it still feels very populated. Same thing with Pokemon. First I tried Pokemon Y, and there were lots of people online from all sorts of countries. Obviously not like it was when it was new, but still. It's definitely not like you're walking down the empty hallways of your local mall. Even just playing for a few minutes resulted in a few offers for trades and battles. Another thing I do to measure how many people are online is to do a wonder trade. Over the years there's been some occasions where you have to try a few times before getting a trade, and that still seems to be the case now, though it does depend on the time of day too. It's not like how it used to be, but it's still pretty good. In 2013 and 14, there was always someone ready to battle, trade, or whatever. Of course, I also tried the newest generation of Pokemon games. Gen 7 is doing better than Gen 6, and since not every 3DS owner has a Switch, I'm sure it'll still be a good online experience once Pokemon Sword and Shield come out. I don't have any other online multiplayer games for the 3DS, so I did a bit of research to see what sort of, online games might still have activity. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate and Generations were games that came up in conversations as being still active. And I'd imagine Super Smash Bros. Would be still pretty alright to use as well. The 3DS also displays some remnants of the past. The Miiverse logo is quite prominent, and the service is also quite shut down. So is Nintendo Zone. I had to look up what that was again. Over all these years, I've never used it. In fact, Nintendo Video is another function that I've never used, and has been shut down in the last few years. There's something interesting about seeing discontinued apps and services remain visible on consoles. There they are, ready to be clicked on, just like always. It's easy to forget things when you stop seeing them every day. To me, it's like the video game equivalent of seeing an empty storefront with the signage still left on. There we go, that's 2 Dead Mall references now. I had a quick look at the upcoming games list, and it's a bit more sparse than I had thought. Just 2 games, but that's not surprising. Nintendo did say, though, that the system won't be discontinued this year yet. Who knows, with Black Friday and Boxing Day coming up later in the year, there might be some solid deals on 3DS games and systems. I wouldn't mind having a new 3DS XL. So that's what using the 3DS in 2019 is like. Obviously, compared to home consoles, and also the Vita, which I think tried to do more things, the 3DS doesn't really have, that many secondary functions, and even the ones that were there and stopped working aren't really too detrimental to the console's usage. The main point of that thing is just to play games. But then again, that should be the main point of every console. As is for many people, the 3DS to me is mainly a Pokemon playing machine. I still haven't finished Pokemon Sun, since I was a bit discouraged with the changes between Gen 6 and 7, so I think I'll go and find some time between now and November to finally finish it. Something else I want to do still is get the shiny charm on Pokemon Y. One day online support is going to be dropped, so I want to get that done before that happens. I don't want to cheat in Pokemon, so I'd rather get them in trades and stuff. That being said, I'm sure a lot of the Pokemon I got in trades aren't legit, but I like to go through the process in the most legit way I can. A big thank you to all the Patreon supporters. Check out the Patreon page if you're interested in seeing your name on the end card, seeing videos early, or getting exclusive news on what videos I'm working on. The description not only has links to that, but also to my merch store, Twitter, second channel, and other things too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.